Oh, they're recording. That looks like it's kind of cold again. Anyway, Antakantabad. Two subjects, sort of. First one is, why do we communicate? And he's under the pretense, anyway, he's flying under the flag, that I guess he's doing it because he likes to listen to his own voice, and he's just musing, and it's of no real importance. And he can't even imagine conversation that would have meaning. Like, it doesn't even occur to him to think that human beings share ideas with each other, influence each other, change each other through that influence. I mean, it's kind of like so opposite to exactly the opposite of what I think happens in reality. In reality is you're exposed to ideas and your brain uses them either directly, like the idea itself is pure enough, I won't mess with it, or just the concept gets you thinking about something else inside your brain. It triggers collection and cohesion and categorization and structure. It changes the structure of how you think. That's what happens when we talk to each other. We change each other's structure. I have a lot more power to influence you than you have to influence yourself. And it's just the way it is. Because, the stuff I generate comes out of a different set, a different collection of noise making. And that noise making can have, can do things that your brain could spend forever doing, and it wouldn't get there because it just doesn't have that dice. It doesn't have that number in its vocabulary or in its conceptual firmament. And now I have fertilized you with these, that you can either call them toxins or nutrients. Doesn't really matter, but that's what happens. We are either poisoned or fed by each other's conversation. So anyway, I just found that silly to say that, look, it's fine, you want to be on the internet and just muse for your own gratification so you can listen to your self-talk. I mean, if you want to use us in that manner, that's fine, but the idea, claiming the idea, that we influence each other is ludicrous, is a ludicrous claim. Of course we do, and in significant ways. All right, part two. He's still rambling about this word intuition and giving no concession to any counter-argument that would contextualize that word into a reasonable definition that we could share. He insists on using the word as a catch-all. He says it's not emotion, yet it is, and yet in the sense that he's claiming that the intuition isn't immediate, that somehow, unlike emotions, it's not immediate, or it's specific to a specific circumstance. Well, I'm trying my best to fairly paraphrase, and it's really hard to do because I don't know what his point is. Yeah, I guess it's that simple. I don't think it's a point that can be made because I think it just counters. I think it's opposed to this idea that intuition is the dumb sense. Intuition is what we do first. It's our first reaction, and that all the subsequent reactions, the ones our brain pulls from memory and understanding, although tainted with emotion, are in fact tainted through rational and logical process. So they're entirely legitimate. So your fear of snakes, let's say, could be innate and intuitive. Then you learn through life that there's other things to be afraid of. That there's things that don't look like a snake, but are snake-like, in that they are a threat. And even though they look nice, like puppy dog or big dog even, most of the time, that sometimes they can bite. And so then you categorize them in your brain, you associate these things together. and you have a common emotional character is painted on both of those things, a common color, a common intensity, a common flavor. And so now you associate these things with biting, let's say. That's the new category, bite. So you've given it a name, you've given it a category, a descriptor, and now you have tied the emotional response. Well, the same thing happens with our empathy. First, there's cute, and we find it appealing innately, intuitively. We are drawn to the cuteness. And then we start to understand something for its character. We understand a word like character. And we say there are these other aspects that things can have, other traits that things can display, that although I innately don't find them charming and attractive, they are charming and attractive. I learn through logic to associate them now as things that are essentially cute. That is, these are things that are now attractive to my sensibilities, that I find appealing, that I would want to be around. So now I can associate a bunch of character traits like honesty, or humility. I could find some positive character trait in someone and find it to be, in a sense, in my brain, in my subconscious, in the thing that defines me. It will now be associated with this positive affirmative emotion, like cuteness. It's in this new category of pleasant thing, good thing. And so now I will associate these character traits when I find them in something, like its underdog status, its stoicness, or its honesty. And now these things will provoke affirmative responses from me that are not intuitive. They are now character built. They are part of my character. Having character is developing these sensibilities that are not innate, but are in fact learned and applied through logical association. So you've done the function of logic to establish categories and to sensibly put things in these categories based on a understanding that itself has been developed through this process. So we have this process where we learn to associate, and it's through those associations that we make things intuitive, that we make things that we draw on intuitive nature, intuitive knowledge. So we have intuitive knowledge of taste good, taste bad, and then we have acquired taste where we understand and begin to appreciate things that we might have thought were not good or pleasant to consume. Our initial reaction was perhaps negative, but through refinement, understanding of its context, that it's 100-year-old wine or some other thing, will give it now an enhanced character that we will appreciate as if it was intuitively or viscerally good. I think I explained that fairly well. But yeah, this is the nature of logic. This is the nature of intelligence, is doing this rational, logical categorization based on performance over not only your life experience, personal life experience, but what you see happen to others. So just like a chimpanzee will mimic behavior of other chimpanzees, he'll also learn from the fact that other chimpanzees slip on the ice and fall down and go boom. He'll learn what are dangerous things based on witnessing the jeopardy that something else is exposed to, or witnessing its suffering or its joy. These are all things it can learn from in seeing somebody else experience them, and now place them in categories. Because he sees the others happy and joyful, he may try something that was intuitively repulsive or negative, because he understands that they tend to be happy, so at the end, so that might be worth doing, even though intuition said don't do it. Like even going into water, for example. Chimpanzees, generally speaking, don't like water, but if a group of chimpanzees were to find a hot tub or a hot spring available and started enjoying it, the other chimpanzees, although at first apprehensive, would learn from that behavior to give it a try, because they looked comfortable and like they were having a good time, and he'd want in on it. So intuition is not the rational sense. It is the crude mechanism through which we use to do logical extrapolation, embiggen the picture with logical categorization. And so, although intuition, in the sense that some feeling reservoir of knowledge, you have to have knowledge of feelings to be able to understand values that are based on outcomes, that affect you in some feeling way. That minimal reservoir doesn't have to be much. It just has to be the idea of harm, the idea of negative state of being versus comfortable state of being. And once you have those two broad elements of intuition, once you know one thing is bad, the smell of poop, you can understand that poverty is poopy, that being hit with a stick is poopy. You can now put everything negative into the poopy, like poop category, and say this is things to be avoided because they are like poop, and everything else would be in the not like poop category. So you don't need much intuition to develop a logical structure, and in the end, a very highly contextualized, elaborately nuanced and detailed philosophical perspective. So let's be clear. What Antikantavad is saying, in sort of, kind of, maybe, is that intuition is our only guide, that we somehow don't do anything more than intuit, that we only viscerally react, we only ignorantly react, that we have no capacity to react beyond those primitive reactions. Well, in a sense, he's saying I could never develop a state of mind that would be counter to intuition, where intuition says, I don't like snakes, therefore forever I will be averse to snakes. Whereas I explained in the other video, clearly you could understand what snakes are, and you could mitigate against your immediate reaction, your visceral reaction, and have a different reaction. That's called informed, knowledgeable, wise, intelligent. That's what we're capable of, and it's really silly to argue that we don't have that faculty, because we demonstrate it all the time, all over the place, every day. We know better and we do better, quite obviously. We often want things in the moment, and we're smart enough to know that's only a moment, it'll go away, I don't need to, whatever. waste gasoline driving to the store to go buy a grape popsicle. It can wait. We all the time can moderate our intuitive reactions into more sophisticated reactions. Our brain will create them. It has them in its memory already. That's the very nature of building character. So this argument from intuition is just such a waste of time. Intuition is something to be overcome, not something to be wallowed in. Intuition is just it's the tires of the automobile. It's the thing that makes the car capable of moving, but it isn't doing the real work. The real car is in the engine and the steering and all the other mechanics that make the car go. The wheels are vital, but they're not what's really going on in our brain. A minor part of our brain is intuition. The major part is developing that, building on that with logic and intelligence to create a refined reaction, an elaborate reaction, a precise and accurate reaction to the world when we see it. All right. I think I just totally, you can't, I win. I'm declaring victory. This video was win all over the place. So I really shouldn't have to keep arguing nonsense words. Intuition is a dime store mental concept. It's really shouldn't even have. I shouldn't even say the word again in my life. That's how useless it is. That's how meaningless it is. There's anything really substantive about what human beings are doing. So anyway, till the next time. In touch. Shit. Really is ice everywhere here. Oh, there's broken toe now. I need that.